Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Universe, the show and network reminding you that the mysteries and possibilities of the universe are closer to Main Street than you may have ever imagined. My name is Daniel Michael, founder, co-creator of the Main Street Universe Radio Network, and today I'm here at Fairground Park. I'm out in the park, so you may hear activity, birds, other things, people going by, motorcycles, the whole 9 yards. That all comes with being in a public place. Today we're going to talk about the history of the Pentacle and or Pentagram, the five-pointed star, often depicted with the circle. And before we get to that, I want to start off with a motivational saying that I like. I'm finished my morning workout, and there's a motivational saying that I like, saying everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to do what lions do. Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what a beast does. And that is so true that we should continue to talk to our warrior selves, to grow in our journey, and to understand the blessings of accountability and combat. So we'll start with our history of the Pentacle in China. Now, in Taoism, the 5 points of the five-pointed star represented the elements of wood, fire, water, metal, and earth. These were considered to be 5 phases of Taoist tradition. And it's also tied in with fundamental philosophies that are involved with the balance of 5 and in acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. Now, me myself, I'm very passionate about herbal medicine, as so many of you know, but Chinese herbalism, I admit, it looks complex. It's not my specialty. But it is fascinating, and I occasionally read. I heard that there is a Chinese herbal cure for that skin condition, which people lose their pigment. And I found that fascinating and saw an example or two of it on YouTube where the girl took this little potion that the person made, and it helped to cure that little pigmentation when people lose the color of their skin. I forget what it's called, forgive me. Any ethnicity of people can come down with this, and I thought that was fascinating. So onward with the five-pointed star, with the pentacle, going back to Hinduism, it again has elemental associations, and it's akasa with air, sky, or ether, vayu, air. So sky and ether, I guess, a little bit different than air itself. And jala, water. Agni is fire. And prithvi, if I said that right, is earth. And they're collectively known as the Panchamaha Bhutas, the 5 basic elements of nature. The Pancha, I believe, is that original, I'm winging it on this one, root word to start in Sanskrit to discuss these 5 elements. I just think it's interesting for some of the negative press that this symbol gets. It's like anything else, it's a little misunderstood. Have people used it to represent dark things? Sure. And they've done the cross, the Christian cross, for the same thing, which brings me to my next one. In Christianity, you had what was referred to as the 5 wounds of Christ. And if you look at, and they used them, and if you look carefully, however carefully, there's Christian temples where in those fantastic, elaborate cathedrals that you see. There are a few of them that are publicly known to have pentagrams and pentacles in them, and you can see them. I forgot the name of it. There's one that's famous that some people point out, and again, I don't really have much notes with me. I just sort of jotted a few things down and winging it here in the park. But in the Mormon tradition, even more so, in Mormon, there's pentacles all over the place in some of their buildings. So I think it's fascinating that association with elements across cultures. And now we've covered, of course, Asian and Hinduism and Christianity, Middle Eastern, as well as in Islam, of course, the association with King Solomon. I'll get to that in just a little bit. Solomon from the Bible, speaking of Christianity, used the seals, the famous seals of Solomon, to control the jinn, which is a word that later evolved into the word demon. And he controlled them to help build his palaces and such, according to Christian and Islamic mysticism. And then we even get to the Irish, and they believed that the 5 points symbolized, I believe they put it as the 5 great provinces or great roads. It was associated with the fairy folk. And there was quite a bit about apples. If you cut an apple a certain way, people say there's a pentacle shape in there, and there's a lot of magic associated with apples. And it looks like a little pentagram, the way the seeds are shaped. And of course, I remember there's an old love spell where you twist the apple around while holding the stem, or going through the alphabet, and it's like a divination. And whatever letter you're on is the first letter of the last name of the person that's supposed to be your true love. So that's just a little folky magic there that I remember. And there were some names under the Irish one. It was Cara, Ceres, Cormac, the core of the apple. And there's, as I said, so now we've gone from Middle East to Hinduism to Taoism, China, and there's more cultures where the number 5, which brings me to my next point, and its numerological significance, often thought of as kind of an exciting number, a transformative and change and challenge number, which that's why I said thank, Aries in the morning for a little combat, because you don't think of them as problems, you think of them as obstacles. And so, and I'm going to return a little bit to the Solomon point, because it's such an interesting story to anyone that studies magic and mysticism and the occult. Because here's a guy who's a wizard, who's written multiple Bible verses, who had, forgive me if I twisted the numbers around, I'm not reading it, I think it was 300 wives and 700 concubines. So not exactly doing the monogamy thing either. And was known to engage in a lot of excesses as all part of his spiritual journey. Sounds a little like me. But, so he drank a lot, probably did whatever potions or psychedelic or buzzy things of the day, all as part of his spiritual journey, though, I guess was the backdrop behind it. So, numerologically, the number 5 again, in tarot, it's often thought of in a position that's transformative, which can be bad or good. Oftentimes a 6, I'm thinking of an example of 6 of cups, 6 of coins. Those are abundant cards. And the 5 of coins, 5 of pentacles, since we're talking about that symbol today, is definitely one of transformation. If it's reversed, it can actually mean maybe some of the more painful aspect of the transformation is fading from you. And speaking of that, and moving on, I'll move away from the tarot a little bit. It just came to my head, Africa and their numerological system, or at least one of them. Of course, you say Africa, it's a continent, not a country, but it's a continent, and it's big, and there's lots of cultures within. But one that I remember was 3 and 4. It was like male and female. Forgive me if I forgot the order. And 7. They're all important numbers. We'll think 7 plus 3 is 10. Because completion will be 7 because the male and female meet, and do their thing. So now you have 7. You have rebirth. And then from that 7 to plus 3 is 10. 10 plus 4 is what? It's 14. And in numerology, what is 1 plus 4? 1 plus 4 is 5, of course. So even in Africa, there is this association. Even if it's unintentional, there seems to be something about this number 5 that continues to pop up for very significant spiritual and philosophical reason. Not just, hey, look, the number 5's everywhere. That would sound kind of ridiculous and not worthy of a show. But, I mean, it just keeps coming and coming. And back to Solomon again. This will be a short episode. I just wanted to do a brief history. It was in the Key of Solomon around the 15th century, 15th or 16th century. And there was a grimoire that claimed, you have apocrypha, lost Bible verses, and then you have that other word that stands for perhaps a false author or somebody else speaking for pseudonographica or something like that. And of course I said it right because it's my show. Just kidding. But so whether genuine or not, it's as much as we know in Solomon's magic and how he was able to, using the magic in that grimoire, to control demons, the jinn, which a word that became genie later, and as well as communicate with angels. And some would say maybe communicating with the angels to help, and their power helped him control the jinn versus maybe his own, but was protected by the seal, and the seal becomes the genie sealed in the bottle. That's where we get that legend from. So the seal of Solomon, considered a pentacle, also it's Jewish mysticism, and it looks like the Star of David, and it has 2 triangles that come together, and later on people take that further into the 3D shapes and the Merkaba and all those things. But Solomon, who is a fascinating character in history, is associated with the Pentacle and Pentagram, and Cornelius Agrippa. Oh, that one just came to my head. He was known, the old alchemist and sage Cornelius Agrippa, who did, as part of his works, write much about the divine feminine and power of divine femaleness, as well as many other things. And Agrippa was fond of the Pentacle. And of course, I couldn't get away from a Pentacle episode without mentioning that Pythagoras saw it as a very complete and perfect mathematical symbol. And Pythagoras, the ancient Greek philosopher, believed in a perfect balance between spirituality and math. He believed that you had to do both. And I'm such a fan of that because in my expression as a pagan mystic, I believe that we have to have, the math part sounds earthy to me, so you have to be good humans. You don't want to be always a monk meditating on a mountain somewhere because you're not down here being a good human. You have to have the dark side. You have to have the low vibration side. You have to have the earth side, and it's a blessing to be alive, and it's a blessing to have the combat. I mean intellectual combat, folks. I don't mean, I mean waking up and being motivated, not getting into dramas. And of course, all those things will happen, like the story of the two wolves inside of you. It's a Native American story, if the origin is correct. I've known the story a long time, and I was told that's what it was, where there's two wolves inside of you. And of course, one is fear and anxiety and greed and all these things, and the other one is love and joy and happiness. And they're always doing battle inside of you. And they say, well, which wolf is going to win? Well, the answer is it's the one you feed the most. But don't get me wrong, they're both always there, and they're both always moving, and they're both always fighting. And that's the thing. Exploring the dark side of your gnosis without being inundated by it is part of the pump that gets it going. Because blackness and darkness is alive just every bit as much as light is alive. And neither are necessarily good or evil, because you can unbalance each one, but I view them as a pump, like as a pump that gets the soul going. So be thankful. Wake up wanting a little bit of combat, because the last thing you want is to be complacent. Complacency to me is hell. Okay? Becoming stagnant is hell. In the Christian Bible, hellfire is only mentioned about twice, and you can look that one up. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that one. However, it's never mentioned as an eternal human punishment. A lot of people don't know that one either. However, actual hell is your stagnation. That's my personal opinion. I'm not preaching at you. I'm just barking at you a little bit. A little bit of combat. And I do remember that again, of course, the five human senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And that is, again, all these things, the planet associations, the 5 planets you could see, and I'll sort of wrap it up here with that. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And I did just read that one off my phone. Most of the rest of this, I was kind of winging it. However, it's important to know that someone can always twist a symbol to mean something other than what actually its intention was. Anton LaVey used it for the Satanic Temple, and that's fine. And they also use upside down crosses. I think LaVey does. I know Satanists do. I'm not here to bash on the Satanists. I'm just saying they can mean different things to different people. That's all. And they can take a symbol here and adapt it to their own thing, but there is an origin to it. And I won't go any further. I was about to go into a little bit about sacred images and maybe, hello folks, how you doing? And sacred symbols. Even Baphomet, right? It looks frightening to people. You see a goat's head coming at you with sort of a male, mixed female body, elemental symbols, sitting in a chair, kind of in a similar pose to Lakshmi in Hinduism. So exploring the world, you can't just listen to these YouTube conspiracy morons that are always like, look at this symbol. Oh my God, it's a dark, evil cabal. No. It's a vastly misunderstood esoteric spiritual language that you're dumbing down with your conspiracy videos, like some of these guys. And you know there's a lot of them out there on YouTube. It's more complex and more simple than that. You shouldn't approach your spirituality with fear. That's the purpose sometimes of maybe more frightening looking images and symbolism. You're supposed to walk through it. That's why if you start doing dream work, you can start to walk past your nightmares, for example, because you overcome that fear. And then you thank the gods for the combat. I'm Daniel Michael. You've been listening to Main Street Universe, the show network reminding you that the mysteries and possibilities of the universe are closer to Main Street than you may have ever imagined. And soon live shows again. Thank you.